had my closest close call yesterday. I'm talking, there's a lot of kind of windy roads around here. I don't know if it's just an Ohio thing, but you don't need a stop sign at every intersection. Everybody doesn't have to slow down. That's why we've got like sort of two ways, like this cross incoming traffic does not stop kind of deals. But that's not always registering with people very well, is what I've come to understand. Like I've seen a variety of driving. I'm talking like Miami, LA, Italy. These guys are driving like there's no rules, there are no lanes on the roads. But I guess this is our problem over here, kind of Midwest. But I'm driving, the road curves. It's like a 120-degree angle. It's nothing wild. I mean, it's a curve, but it's still this same road. I've got the right of way to just take it and curve to the right. And there's another road that goes straight on, right? And they've got a stop sign. So for me, I look over and I'm like, and if this guy didn't stop, he'd probably run right into me and kill us both. And then less than half a second later, I'm looking next to both of us going 50, whatever. And luckily, I guess if we were playing chicken, he lost, and he kind of bumped out on the other side. And he's looking at me like I'm out of my fucking mind. And then he's tailgating me, and I'm like, follow me home. There, you had a stop sign. That was kind of nuts. But luckily, nothing came of it. No car-on-car impact, and now we can all just go about our lives as we were. And as I was, is now getting ready to wreck chest. I will see whether I want to make this a little heavier or a little lighter or a combination of the two. And usually when I say heavier, that really does just mean a combination. Heavier stuff in the beginning, lighter squeezing stuff later, kind of as more of a finisher, right? But like this is something which I get the logic, because it's like setting a precedent of a rule of working out that is actually like pretty legit, and saying that you should do multiple different movements per workout so that you change it up, you're hitting the muscle in different ways, and your workouts don't get stale, and you don't give yourself the same stimulation lift after lift after lift. You're changing it up, and I like that. It's a good rule, right? I think we can all agree. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a day that's just a little simpler, Like I think there have probably been, I mean, given how many people work out and how many days they still, kind of, like one person working out is going to account for thousands of workouts if the guy works out for, X years. So, I mean, I feel like there's been millions of lifts that were potentially a little subpar because maybe the guy started on incline Smith or like incline dumbbell or cable press. He started on a movement, said, wow, this feels really good. And instead of just staying there, like making use of the fact that he was in the zone on that one piece, he just left. He did 2 sets and he said, okay, I did 2 really good sets there. They felt really good. I'm going to do something else now. Just, because that's what you do, right? And that's not it's just a closed mentality, I mean, I've had not like hundreds, but I've had like probably tens of lifts. Now, obviously that's not a lot, that are just 2 movements. Sometimes even 1 if it's a simpler body part. I mean, I've had arm days where it was, for bis and tris, 2 movements. Dumbbell, straight, regular-ass dumbbell curls, nothing special about it. Heavy, 10-ish failure, and then just gradually work my way down the rack because I get weaker after every set. And just a bunch of heavy-ass pushdowns. Like no overhead stretch, no light squeeze burn. But for that day, for that lift, it was a good workout. I'm going to do something else the next week, or the next, half week if you're doing more of a, like what we should be doing, I feel, is kind of a twice a week body part kind of frequency, But the idea that there is only one way to do it, and that to break off from that pattern is cataclysmic, and right? You ever hear of sheep mentality? Not cool. Try this stuff out for your own, or for yourself, and see what works. So that's what I'm going to do today. Obviously, I've got the hundreds of chest days to look back on, kind of just historically and judge what movements I think are going to be good and what order and what kind of combination. But apart from that, I'm going into the gym. I've never been this exact version of myself, right? I've never woke up on July 9th. Is it the 19th today? Yeah, I've never woke up on July 19th, 2025. Ever. This is the first time that I've ever done that. So there is a value, I feel, to take an every day like that. It's a totally new day. You're a totally new dude. There's room to kind of play around with it, right? You're supposed to be in control of everything, at least related to what you do. So just keep your hands empty, right? Don't stack all your eggs in one basket in the sense of just doing the same thing that kind of has been working before. Because sure, it's a safe place. That this chest day your dad taught you in the 80s is good, and you've been doing it for a long time. Are you missing out on something new? And if you're not, and you try something new and you don't like it, then that's just even more reason to keep doing what you've been doing, because it works. So it's a little bit of maybe a confirmation bias on what I'm saying there. But regardless of approach, 45 minutes after set number 1, that's kind of an estimation, I will be as pumped as possible. That is not my goal. That is simply what is going to happen, right? It's a matter of fact, barring some unforeseen circumstance, But I think no one talking about it. Let's just go make it freaking happen. I have reason to believe that there is a larger than necessary demographic of lifters who do not get it. Right? And by get it, I'm not talking about working out. I'm not talking about calories. I'm talking about a certain guttural kind of response that knowing a wild set is coming kind of just brings up. It's not exactly like from my stomach or like I'm not gonna say it's from my heart either, but it's somewhere in this kind of, cavity of things. There must be some, unrecognized organ that is, not really brought up in scientific literature that only makes itself known when you're about to wreck a crazy set of incline dumbbell. And I can feel mine going now. One more at least. Really just as many as I can tell are going to be good. No, that's a good feeling. Okay. Okay. Flies after presses. A classic move. May as well be the freaking Peck's Gambit. But it's not for no reason, man. You know, heavy tension. Not so much of a crazy squeeze on top because the weight is only pushing down, not pulling out, if you follow me. So with chest, you got presses and you got flies. And then you got movements that are kind of a combo where it's like a press that presses in. And it's like a middle ground. So that's one thing where I would say, you know, I have that whole talk of like, you know, sometimes you only need to do one thing in a lift and it's fine. You know, I think presses and flies, you know, steak and potatoes. They kind of are meant to be together. But after this, I'm going to move on to, I think, a converging cable press. And shit, man, if these sets are good, that'll be it. A little trifecta movement-wise for today. Oh, one more. Woo. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is a good setup. I've seen machines that are just like this, you know, seat cables as such. And if you have a gym that has that as a dedicated machine, I'm jealous. That's kind of cool. But at the cost of using a bench and 2 cables at once, odds are you can pretty much do this anywhere. So not too heavy, only 100 pounds on either side, which is very reasonable. But what I'm really aiming for with these, much more of a squeeze than the sets of incline. I'm talking like I want a full second down in a stretch, repeat, right? I want the squeeze to be a bit extra emphasized. I'm talking like a skull crusher would be those heavy dumbbell bench, whereas this is a little more like a tricep extension with a rope. And I'm using lighter weight, really trying to squeeze and feel like I'm trying to bend my arms backwards. I'm trying to morph my hands through themselves at the top to the point where my elbows touch like this, if you get what I'm saying. Like that's, I want to squeeze as though the rep can continue on, even though it's already reached its sort of like, you know, maxed range of motion. But let's get a good song going and go nuts here. I can go a little heavier. 120. There we go. Okay. Oh, okay, a little too heavy. More. Okay. Yeah, one more superset. I think that'll be enough. Oh, goodness. All right, so for this one, just a quick finisher. Well, actually, let me think. For a second, I thought I was just going to do decline like presses here to really squeeze, but I think a two-parter is in order. So I'm talking bent over presses, just kind of quick squeezing, really rapid kind of contractions and stretches, and then drop the weight probably by half and do some squeezing kind of declining flies. A lot of what I've done all day was incline, so this is kind of my finisher, making sure I get blood kind of just everywhere. And it's a different feeling to feel your chest stretch sort of like in this upward motion of like an incline press versus having it pulled like in the opposite of this kind of more decline-ish fly, you know. I think we all need more incline on average, but I still want to get a good kind of upward stretch. And that's what kind of a downward fly really fits in for me, instead of like, you know, decline bench or something like that. Okay. Let's get these lights off. All right. I'm usually used to posing the opposite way around, but I think this might be a little bit of a secret to, well, whatever. But very good lift, hefty, a lot of, I mean, shit, dude. Those 4 sets of incline, if I got a crazy ass call that I had to roll instantly, I would be fine with that. I would not be like ecstatic. I don't think the lift was done, but the amount of work that I think got done in just those 4 sets from, I mean, kind of just a combination of their overall heft, but also like their intensity. Yeah, man, that is all right with me. But yeah, feeling good. So let's sort of, yeah, so this is that's the frame from the front. But let's see how we're really looking kind of actually in the fancy pants spotlight. Whew. Shit, I mean, even just that reflection of kind of the light going over my kind of silhouette, that's getting extra freaky. This is one benefit that I really get to enjoy of having the private space, is just the total control over this kind of post-lift lighting. Oh, man. Yeah, very good. But I feel like I got basically every portion of a good chest day in. You know, a heavy press, pretty just, I mean, high tension throughout the entire rep. And I mean, it's not like there's no tension at the top because it's with dumbbells and they can still slide, you know, back and forth sideways. Then a little bit more controlled squeezing, just consistently difficult pec flies. Pretty classic. I mean, obviously there's just tension the whole way around. There's no middle ground of a break of the rep. And then finishing with those incline cable presses, plus just a little extra something at the end to really fucking, you know, pump them up. You know, sorry for the F-bomb, didn't mean to drop that one. You know, what else can I freaking ask for?
Actually, one thing comes to mind, and it's just because I'm getting excited about being lean going into the end of this year, is getting all this crazy detail back. I never get too soft, and I'm making it a point not to get too soft on this particular off season. But there's just like, oh, this thing's battery powered, it's dead. Shit. What the hell was I saying? Well, I'm excited to be diced again. That's what I'm trying to get at. Because as cool as it looks to, be kind of grainy, kind of whatever, whilst, fucking lean, look, or no. Yeah, I guess I'm saying it is crazy when you're diced and lean. So it's something to look forward to, and kind of, I feel, something that motivates me, knowing that I'm not going to be like crazy dice peeled, veiny, grainy, vascular, and every other cool pump describing term. The whole point of the off season is to make that look even freakier, right? I mean, you can be diced whenever the hell you want, Not to say it's easy, but there's no limit to how big you have to be before you can be lean, right? So how I look at that is like, all right, I certainly like being lean, but every time I peel down, I want it to be on the backswing of a good off season so I can see differences, because I'm not totally done. I don't think you're ever totally done. It's kind of like, as long as you're alive, you're kind of going to want to be in better shape than you are. It's like a never satiating sort of thing, like Sisyphus style. But, I think we can agree there's like at least semi-short term, like year-to-year goals that we want to work on, regardless of what our end total goal might be. And for me, at least, let's keep putting some freaking beef on, right? More, maybe, actually, I don't know. I don't know how many pounds. Like, I don't have a to-do list of 3 extra pounds on my hamstrings, 1 extra pound, like it's not like that specific. To put it a little more bluntly, it's just exercise everywhere, right? As long as it's in well, distributed distribution. But I think nothing else to talk about. I get to go home feeling like a freaking G. Droll.
Very good. Very nice. Yeah, that was solid. The only thing that I would have changed for that lift is I wish I was more pumped. And that's a good thing to say. If that's my only critique, that I wish I had more, then that leaves me feeling good knowing I get to go home hungrier for the next one. There is, I kind of went on a little bit ago, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, about how there's a certain stage of working out, kind of once you've got the gist of everything, that in a sense, you're kind of just smooth sailing, right? You reach a new threshold of effort. You're no longer a newbie gains kind of guy. Like, you know what you're doing. You work out. You keep bringing it at that same level of intensity day after day after day, and you're still making solid progress, right? That's sort of phase 2. But the trickier thing, and it's almost like a trick question by phrasing it like that, is the fact that there is always another phase. You can bring the bar higher every time, and if you can just do that instantly without needing like a catalyst to actually think that, then you're better than me. I'm still subject to the fact that sometimes you can get a little bit comfortable with the way you've been training and how hard you've been going, and you're like, all right, this is good for now. And it's not as prominent now, because I think on the scale of 0 to like really good at working out, I'm definitely getting closer to that really good side, at least for me, and like, what I'm capable of. But you never get there. There's always more to be gained, So what I think back to is, especially when I was a beginner, I'm talking 160, 170. That was kind of when weight was a bit more important. I'm talking like I need to be able to do 225. Like, I remember doing 250 for a single. I had Mark record it on my iPod, which is somewhere. I need to go back and find all that. And I was like on top of the freaking world. You know what I'm saying? But once I've kind of got a certain level of comfortability with working out, it's kind of like that graph where it's comfortability or like confidence by experience, right? Experience is the x-axis, confidence is the y-axis.
in the beginning, you've never done it, you're not crazy confident, and there's kind of this fallacy where you start doing it a little, and you're a little bit kind of like, holy crap, I know what the hell I'm doing. It's kind of this like diluted sense, and then the more experience you get brought back to a certain reality, and then it makes you want to kind of improve yourself further. So for me, some of those points are, I've had lifts where I was like, like not taking a rest day because I wanted to take a rest day, just because like it was late and I was busy that day, and like I'm in bed already. I had a home gym at the time, so it's like it was right there. There's nothing stopping me from getting up and going nuts. And it was like, okay, do I sit here or do I not? I'm watching Baki at the time. I'm like, all right, what would Baki do? He wouldn't go to fucking sleep. He'd go nuts. Freaking sleep. Sorry about that. You know what I'm saying? So, or like I've had lifts where the first few sets of it, I'm like, what is wrong with me right now? Like it just, I wasn't really bringing it. Like I could tell I wasn't like in the zone of focus that I want to be at. And just those little things, kind of like reflections where you really kind of get a look at yourself and think, I could be doing more. I could be going harder right now. What am I doing? Or you kind of catch yourself slacking and adjust from there. I mean, that's an incredible kind of aspect of life. There's a version of you where everything is honky-dory every time and there's never an issue. And that version of you is probably a total punk because he's never had to thug out anything and kind of, get over it and be better because of it, So I think that's a good way of thinking, right? Because, I mean, I look back and I've had some, I'm not going to get like my whole life story in one car talk post chest, but like I've had some shit go down, and at the time it was not cool, not even freaking at all. But now it's led to where I am, so I wouldn't change it for anything, So it's a really good kind of quote where it's Kevin Levrone. He's got the video. He's got the Apple kind of corded headphones. Sometimes shit isn't falling apart, and it's falling into place, but it might not feel like it at the time. I'm saying. So that's much easier of a thing to say in retrospect, looking back, but still kind of definitely a valuable thought. But I can say, at least today, I'm proud of how much I brought it for that lift, and everything else kind of is in accordance as well. Meals, recovery, sleep. I could be a little more hydrated right now. I should have drank a little more today, and that's an easy fix. Just make sure I keep having that jug on me. And apart from that, just keep going. It's there's a difference between coasting in the sense of just doing the same thing every day, the same workout, the same intensity, the same whatever, and kind of, well, I mean, who's going further, right? Let's put it like this: the guy who is riding his bike on a flat plane and just staying the same speed, not really putting much effort into it, or the guy who's got to pedal uphill. Because sure, they're going the same speed. If anything, that guy might feel like he's going slower, But it's not just this, just coasting state of things. Like he's still kind of constantly chipping away at what he's aiming at. If you kind of catch my gist there. But plan for tonight now. Big dinner, straight to bed. I think I got to start doing later workouts. I'm not talking like this late. This is a little bit much, but. Yeah, I've been working out a little earlier, like more, only a few meals in throughout the day. But yeah, lifting towards the end of the day, I think that's where it's at for me. Just more kind of carved up, rested in the sense of like, I've just got those extra meals in me throughout the entire day. And I really think it is kind of letting me bring it harder in those sessions. I've been on a little bit of like a morning lift kick because that's what I was doing when I was dieting. Because like the overall like numerical output of the workouts when I was dieting isn't so much the point. The difficulty there is more the calorie restriction and just consistency and cardio, things along those lines. The set, obviously the workouts are important to maintain my size and strength, but it's much easier to maintain that muscle than it is to build new muscle in an off season. In the sense that, I could get away with, and I don't even like to say it like this because it's not cool, but you won't have to be lifting as heavy or as hard of sets or as much volume in an off season as you are when you're dieting. For one, you're just not eating enough food to probably facilitate that amount of energy output and recover from it. But I kind of don't like to say that, because then that feels like an excuse to train easy when you're in an off season. It's more so just keep in mind that context, right, and go from there. But getting close to the end of July, and I think, well, we'll see. I don't want to call it too early, because obviously I want to keep growing as long as I'm making steady gains in this off season. But we're definitely on the tail end, that's for sure. But I'm not going to treat it like that as I'm slowing down. It's more so I'm making my way towards a freaking ramp to shoot off into a diet. You don't slow down on your way to a ramp if you're doing a crazy ass jump. You want to speed up, right? And kind of get a little more into it throughout that kind of process. So definitely an analogy night post lift drive, but you knew that's what it was going to be about. But yeah, nothing else to say. Plan for back tomorrow. Get a back pump. However I end up deciding is the best lift that I see fit. But I can guarantee this: I will take you with me. That's for sure. Actually, shit, that's not true. That's not true. Tomorrow is a certain premiere. Tomorrow is a certain announcement, the likes of which I think will, you'll just have to see. You'll see. But I'd say 99% guarantee you're going to say, all right, glad I clicked on that. But that's not for me to, that's for you to see. So tomorrow at 2, if you're, if you live close to me. Any other time zone, you're going to have to look at your own adjustment. But I'll actually see you for that. And then my back day is going to be the day afterward. That's kind of going to be the spotlight of tomorrow. But yeah, nothing else to say there. I'll just see you for that.